Good morning, Small Business Connecticut and USA members. I am so excited for this Tuesday. It's the start of another great week, and it's fall, and all I keep hearing is about all these businesses that keep having increased sales and exciting events going on, so really excited for today. You know, Scott Gombar is here with us today, and Scott is a huge, amazing partner for Small Business USA, and I'm so happy to have you here, Scott. So thank you for honoring us with your presence.
Well, thank you for having me on. It's always fun to be on these calls. So,
you know, the last call that Scott did was about Twitter, and we just had such an amazing response to his Twitter call. Lots of questions. We thought we'd follow this up with a Facebook call today. But please, for whatever reason, whatever social media questions that you have, Scott is absolutely the expert on these fronts. You know, he's really somebody who balances that Google+, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. So if you have questions for Scott, please make sure you ask them because he's pretty adept at every different aspect of it. So just a little bit of housekeeping. We're going to talk with Scott a little bit this morning for the first 20 minutes about Facebook and his thoughts on it and how you can best use it to grow your business. But at any time, please interrupt. I mean, the questions and the live questions are really what makes the call a little more interesting. So at any time, if you have a question, it's *6. After about 20 minutes, we'll go just to the email questions and live questions. So that's the back half of this call. So, you know, get ready. It can be about anything. It doesn't have to be about Facebook. It can be about anything. So please definitely take advantage of this because it's really cool to have somebody just answering whatever question you might have. So with that, Scott Gombar, tell us a little bit about yourself. Remind everybody about scottgombar.com and about you and what you do.
Okay, so you already told everybody the website. It is scottgombar.com. It's Gombar. I do inbound marketing, which means I help businesses find clients using the internet, and I also help potential clients find your business on the internet and help you develop the conversation, the reputation, and so forth on the internet so that people follow you and hopefully buy from you. And I do this using the search engines, the major search engines, and social media, and a few other email marketing and so forth in your website. And that's what I do.
So tell us about, you know what, I would love to start a little different today. I want to hear about your greatest success story, Scott. What are you most proud of?
Well, I can tell you, I've got a few things going on right now. So you wouldn't think, since the topic is Facebook, we'll kind of go with that. You wouldn't think a locksmith or a wildlife control person would have any reason to be on Facebook. And I hear that quite a bit. I'm a plumber. Why do I need to be on Facebook? Or, you know, service businesses that have been around for decades and they think, I don't need Facebook, or Facebook isn't going to help me, or whatever. And in the locksmith and the wildlife control businesses I'm working with right now, they're both getting traffic from Facebook to their websites, and in turn getting phone calls for service requests. So, it's not, a lot of business owners think, well, my greatest success is my biggest client. For me, my greatest success is showing you that it could work for a business where most people think it's not going to work. I guess in a way, I like to prove people wrong.
That's awesome. So talk to us about, if you could, maybe the locksmith. How did you help him, and how did you establish this Facebook business for him?
The locksmith was doing very little when it came to social media. So he did develop a Facebook page, and he did have a couple of followers. I suspect most of them were friends. What I did is I went in and I cleaned up his profile. He didn't have a profile image. He did not have a full description, which is extremely important for a few reasons, which I suspect we'll get to on this call. He didn't have his hours of operation, also very important. He didn't have the custom URL set up yet. So instead of facebook.com/locksmith, you had facebook.com with a bunch of random numbers. And so I cleaned all of that up. And in doing so, it started to generate, not massive amounts, but some interest from other people in Connecticut, because now they say, oh, I can search for locksmith in Connecticut. If you use the search in Facebook, they call that the, the graph search on the top of your Facebook page, that will generate what you're looking for if your profile is set up properly. And because we did that for him, and we did a few other things for him, including he didn't have Twitter at all, that generates traffic to his website now. And where he was getting, when I first started working with him, he was getting absolutely not a single person to his website. He's now generating some traffic.
Wow, that's awesome. So that's really interesting. I'm thinking about what you just said and about people using that search engine. And I know when I was doing some work consulting, when I first left corporate America, what I learned is that millennial group, that younger generation, Facebook really tends to be their primary source of information, because how many likes you have really dictates that your reputation. Are you a fly-by-night? It's almost like kind of shows that you have credibility as a company. Would you agree with that? How is Facebook lending to credibility as a tool for business today? Is it more than just millennials?
I think it's definitely more than just millennials. The largest growing population on almost every social media platform is the baby boomers. But it definitely lends to credibility, because what happens is people don't just buy anymore. They don't watch a commercial on TV or see a newspaper ad and say, oh, great, I'm going to buy that. They want to know more about the company, more about the brand. So they'll follow that company, that brand on Facebook, and learn more. And what that company or brand should be doing is giving them educational tips or feedback, things that'll help them develop their following, help them develop trust with their following. And that's extremely important now. People are not just going to buy anymore. I don't remember the number, but it was pretty high number. 70-something% of all people will follow a brand and learn more about the brand before purchasing.
Interesting. So I'm going to ask a question that I probably got about 8 questions emailed to me last night for your call and this morning. Scott, how do we increase our number of followers without paying for it? A couple of people were savvy enough to know that they didn't, but maybe you could talk about how do you pay to increase as well, because a couple of people asked about without paying for it.
Okay, without paying for it, it is a little more difficult now. You can ask your friends, so you probably have a personal profile. I think the number in Connecticut is 40-something% of all Connecticut people have a Facebook profile. So I think that's roughly 1.4 million people. So if we're just talking about Connecticut, you probably have friends on Facebook. So you can ask your friends to like the Facebook page. You can share your Facebook page on your personal profile, which means that your friends may also see that Facebook page in their feed. You can ask your friends to share it for you. You can also put Facebook like buttons on your website. Ask people on Twitter, if you're on Twitter or Google Plus or anywhere else, to like your Facebook page. That's actually pretty common practice in Twitter. I get asked that all the time on Twitter. When you send out an email, your signature line should have a link back to your Facebook page. That works very well. What else works? There's quite a few ways to do it generically. If you have an email list that you send out, once a week, once a month, whatever it is, you should have a link back to your Facebook page on that email list. Quite a few organic ways to do that. in order to, if we're talking about paid, which is ultimately what Facebook wants you to do, they went public, they have stockholders now, they have a board now, they want money. That's the bottom line. So yes, they do try to, I guess you could say, encourage people to buy ads, and you can also purchase ads, and you can target. But the thing with Facebook is you can target very specifically who you want on your Facebook page. So if I want a particular type of consumer or business to follow my Facebook page, I can target that using Facebook. So yes, people are reluctant to spend money on ads. What they don't realize, or what they fail to realize, is that you can target extremely specifically and get exactly who you want to follow your page, and that'll help generate income as well. The Facebook ads usually pay for themselves if it's done properly.
So what does that mean, done properly? Kind of define that for us a little.
The Facebook ad, very similar to Google AdWords. So if anybody's familiar with AdWords, they're very similar. In fact, I think Facebook actually goes a little further. You can target very specific demographics, including income level, where they live, where they work, industries, keywords in their profiles, net worth, where did they go to school. There's probably hundreds of categories you can target by, but you can target very specific demographics. What some people will do is they'll create a Facebook ad and just launch it. No targeting at all. The ad goes out. They don't check the insights to see how well the ad is performing, who's clicking on it, what are they doing after they click, and they're just letting this ad run and cost money. They're not targeting specifically. They're not adjusting the ad based on the results. They're not. You should only let, if most people run an ad on Facebook, they put an image in that ad. That image should change every couple of weeks. If you continually run the ad, the headline should change, because after a couple of weeks, people have seen your ad, they're going to ignore it. Once they see something new, they're more likely to click on it. So there's a lot of setting it up and then reconfiguring and adjusting, making sure it's targeted properly. Unfortunately, a lot of people either are not aware or just don't care, and they just set it and forget it.
You know, Scott, I have to ask, because I know that I leverage this tool the most as a Facebook user, and I guess I fit that demographic, but I love the neighborhood and community groups. So we have like a Friends of West Hartford group, and when I need a dentist, I go, I recently needed a dentist, and put a note on there, and I'm telling you, like, friends and neighbors just completely, they made and broke some businesses with this neighborhood community website or with this Facebook page. And I would think that if I'm a business, I really want to be a part of these neighborhood community groups. Do you want to weigh in on that? And how can a business go and target the right ones and be a part of that?
So it's a double-edged sword. I'm actually in a few of those groups. There's a few of them in Meriden. So I'm based out of Meriden, and I also live in a gated community. So that group has a private group that I'm also part of. And yes, you're right. If somebody says, "Hey, I need a plumber," actually, I'll give you a more an actual example. Recently, somebody asked for HVAC guys, and winter's coming. They're probably trying to get their boilers ready or whatever. And there was quite a few responses, and there were some people that said, "Don't go to this person. Don't go to this company." And there was others that say, "This guy is great. Call this guy." And I actually weighed in, because last year my heat, I think it was probably the coldest day of the year, my heat went out, and we called one company. They completely blew us off, didn't show up. And then I called another one late. I think it was late on a Friday. And they showed up Friday night, had it fixed for me on Saturday morning. And so obviously the first one I said, "Don't go to this one." And the second one I said, "This is the company that you want to go to. They're prompt, they're fair, and they're quick." And I see that a lot. It's funny, I started working with the wildlife control person, and I saw a couple of posts for that. So you're right. The reputation is big. If you don't even need to be on Facebook. So I'm not sure that any of these HVAC people are on Facebook. if you have a reputation in the public and it's a negative reputation, it's going to be shown on Facebook when people ask those questions in those groups. So I think you're right. Probably most towns have those groups, or at least most areas have those groups. And you're right. When people ask restaurants, service people, attorneys, dentists, like you said, and I think somebody did ask for a dentist, any of those things, they're going to tell you do or don't go to that business. So it's not only just your online reputation, it's also your reputation with the people you work with. So those groups are extremely important. Now, a lot of those groups, I know the groups that I'm in Meriden, they don't allow you to post your business. So that could be a little tricky. But if you have a good reputation, it probably works itself out.
I've got to think that it's important just from a reputation, how do you manage your reputation and customer service perspective. You know, I almost, as you're talking, I wonder, would you want to be on that as a personal, like, you know, with your personal Facebook, or would you rather be on there with your business, or both?
On Facebook in general?
Well, in some of these neighborhood community groups, and I even wonder if they would let you join as a business.
Yeah, I don't think they do, or some of them may, but I don't think, for the most part, I don't think they do. I think they purposely try to keep the advertising out. But, you know, I have both a personal profile and a business profile, and they sometimes cross over, and that's actually one of the organic ways to increase your reach is by using your personal profile. So if a question comes up in one of these community groups, hey, how can I market my business? Well, that's a question I can answer. And I have no problem answering questions, you know, without getting anything in return. The idea is I'm building up my reputation online so that hopefully someday down the road they're going to say, oh, yeah, I remember that guy. He knows his stuff. Let's go to him. And I actually saw something like that for a hairstylist in one of the Meriden groups. She could not remember the name of the hairstylist. She knows she went to her a year ago, but couldn't remember her name, didn't have the phone number, and wanted to go back to that same person because she did such an awesome job. Somebody else in the group knew who she was talking about and put the information on there. So your reputation is, and that person does not have a Facebook page, by the way, but your reputation is huge on Facebook.
Wow. So you mentioned reach being down. I know that that's been a question that comes up often. So what do you do when your reach is down? You know, why are Facebook pages being that?
Well, if you talk to some of the people I talk to, you just give up. No, you don't do that. So Facebook reach is down. That is true. It's, you know, it's obvious. Anybody with a Facebook page that pays attention to their reach knows this is true. The reason it's down is because Facebook wants you to buy ads. I said it earlier. They have a board that they report to now. They have shareholders. They want to make money. And any business wants to make money at the end of the day. There are ways, besides buying ads, where you can increase your reach. One of those ways is to include images or video on your posts, you know, related to your posts. And when you do that, tag your post with yourself, because that'll also increase your, it's not really a word, but your searchability in the open graph on Facebook. Make sure that your posts have keywords, but they also make sense to a human reader. So don't just stuff it with keywords. Make sure it makes sense. Use hashtags in front of some of those keywords, but again, make sure it makes sense. Post frequently. Test the time of day when you post. Test the days of the week when you post to see what works, what doesn't work. I can tell you there's some posts I put on, and I'll get 2 people that see it. But then there's other posts that I'll put up, and hundreds will see it. One thing I do, again, I mentioned earlier, is I'll cross over. So I'll share some of my posts to my personal profile. And that increases the reach quite a bit. So this way, instead of getting, you're not even going to reach all the people on your page anymore without using ads. But instead of getting, 15, 20, or 100 reach, you might get a few hundred by sharing to your personal profile, asking your friends to share it. Another little trick that I use that I think a lot of page owners aren't aware of is you can like other pages using Facebook, your Facebook page. So I like other pages from my Facebook page rather than my personal profile. Make sure that you're posting.
Yeah. What does that do when you like another page? Does it post on theirs?
You could post on theirs, and I have. Now I don't post advertising my business, but I'll like a post they posted, or I'll comment on a post. There's a deli down here in Meriden. There's a few of them called Nardelli's, and I follow them on from my Facebook page, and I always comment on their stuff because I love their food. So you could do that, and you never know. Maybe at some point they turn around and say, "Hey, there's a guy that's liking all our posts, and he does marketing, and maybe we can use him." I don't know if that will or won't work, but it takes a couple seconds out of my day, so it's not a big deal. Another thing is make sure your about section is completely filled out, all keywords. Make sure that when you set it up, you have the proper designations for business type. The wildlife control guy, he had pet food or pet supplies, something like that, as one of his designations. And obviously, he doesn't sell pet supplies. He takes care of nuisance wildlife. So that wouldn't be a proper designation, and you're not going to get the kind of traffic you want by doing that. What else can you do? Also, liking other pages, they usually reciprocate and like your page back. So that increases the number of likes you have. The more likes you have, the more likely you are to be found on Facebook, and the more likely you are to reach more people. So to me, that's important. I also create custom. I add custom apps, so links back to other social media, links back to my website, link to my email, my constant contact, a scheduler. Somebody wants to book an appointment with me. All of those things are on my Facebook page.
Awesome. So I'm gonna just jump ahead, and then we'll open it up for questions. But I did get a question from a reader, and it just kind of a number, and it really resonates with what you just said. Made me think. So, Scott, if there are 3 things that I should do with my Facebook page to drive my business, what 3 things would those be? Great question, by the way.
3 things to drive traffic or likes?
Said traffic.
Okay, traffic would 3 things. I would definitely like other pages and like things on those pages. So when that page posts, you should be either liking or commenting. More commenting probably generates more interest. Using images and videos is huge. I don't think I post anymore without an image or a video. There's probably more than 3. Post frequency. So if you're just posting once a week, it's not enough. Usually I try to post somewhere between 3 and 5 times a day. I know it sounds like a lot, but you can schedule them out. And Facebook ads, you can use them. You can set a budget. If you only want to spend $50 a month, you can absolutely do that. Target very specifically and get people to like your page, and this will generate more traffic as well.
Awesome. One of the questions we have is, I own a construction company. Should I have a Facebook page? And I think you
Absolutely.
answered a little bit of that, but, is there any industry that you wouldn't recommend a Facebook page? Do you think everyone should have one?
I can't think of one that should. There is some limitations for financial planning and so forth. They have strict guidelines as to what they can post, and it's pretty much nothing. And I'm sure attorneys probably have some guidelines and so forth, but for the most part, I can't think of any reason you wouldn't have a Facebook page.
One of the other questions. Well, let's. Anybody on the call have any questions? Remember, it's *6 to unmute your phone. What questions are out there for Scott? Okay, well, I'll just go ahead with the ones that are emailed in. Scott, how much should it cost to have someone manage my Facebook page?
How much do you want to pay me?
Is there a standard in the industry? I mean, I guess that's
no.
I think there's that's a good question because I think people are nervous and they have limited budgets. I mean, we talk about that all the time. What can you do? Marketing for free? We look at. I mean, our marketing program. It's really about having the right messaging and being at the right place, but also, that Pareto principle is 20%. Are you that 20% that produces 80% of the results? How do you double that 20%? So I think people are, in general, very aware of how much they spend on marketing and promotion because it comes out of their bottom line as a business owner. So
right, and you're right. It does vary. The cost of Facebook marketing or any marketing does vary, especially in internet marketing. It varies greatly from, some kid in college that'll charge you $20 an hour or whatever, to thousands and thousands of dollars per month. And I'm probably middle of the road somewhere. I don't like to overcharge businesses only because first of all, like you said, ROI is important. If the ROI isn't there, they're not going to continue to work with me. Secondly, I am a small business, so why would I overcharge another small business? But it does vary. What you want, there's a couple things that have to be understood with any type of internet marketing. First of all, it does take time. So it takes time to build the audience. Facebook audience, if you're not using ads, the Facebook audience will take some time. It also takes time for you to generate traffic to your website and ultimately traffic to your phone or through your email. So you have to measure your long-term ROI versus the cost of the marketing campaign. I will tell you, I do have clients that come to me that just want me to do Facebook for them or just want me to do Twitter for them. It's a little bit difficult to measure ROI with just one avenue of traffic, mostly because you usually don't have access to the website or what their sales are, how much their sales improved because of Facebook or Twitter, if that's all I'm doing. So you usually want to do the entire package. You usually want the marketer to handle, a few social media platforms, depending on what the business type is. You want them to manage Google and Bing and Yahoo. Review the website for SEO problems and corrections. Go over other areas where content is huge now. So content marketing, i.e. a blog or a video program. There's a lot of ways to generate that traffic. If you're asking how much does it cost to manage a Facebook page, I couldn't put a number on it. It really depends on the goals.
Those are always the toughest questions to answer, aren't they? So here's one that I think you've actually already answered for us a little bit, and we get this often. Is Facebook still relevant? I think you've answered it, but maybe just so we can really specifically answer this member's question, if you could repeat it.
It definitely is. Facebook is its own nation. It's got over 1 billion users now. It is, I think I read somewhere somebody said it's the second largest country in the world now. Depending on your market, again, 1.4 million people that you could potentially reach on Facebook, that's huge if you're just marketing to Connecticut. You're a small business in Connecticut. You're only looking for Connecticut clients. You have the potential to reach 1.4 million people. You're not going to be able to do that anywhere else. It is the second biggest, I think actually I just read yesterday that Facebook is the #1 site in the United States, 3 years running now. So it's bigger than Google, bigger than YouTube, bigger than, and those are huge sites. So it's definitely relevant. People are following businesses and brands on Facebook to learn more about them, to see if they can trust them. Are they getting negative feedback? Are they getting positive feedback? How do they reply to the negative feedback? Because silence on negative feedback is deadly. It's huge. Facebook is definitely, if you had to pick just one today to be on, it would be Facebook.
Wow. So, Scott, I would love to hear any other questions from the members on the call. They're going to say no. Okay. Hey, So, Scott, what are the most commonly asked questions? Because our questions kind of shifted to other mediums, so I want to just wrap up Facebook first before I go into Google Plus and Instagram questions I have. But what are the most common questions that you get around Facebook?
Well, the most common one is definitely why is my page reached down? Why am I not seeing the traffic I used to see? And again, the answer is because Facebook wants you to buy ads. The same reason Google makes it tougher to get to the top now, because they want you to buy ads. That's their revenue. What are the common questions? I guess, again, do I need a Facebook page? Especially for those traditional standards, those traditional service markets like plumbers and electricians and wildlife control and things like that, locksmiths. They don't always feel like they need a Facebook page because their fields have been around for decades. Some other businesses get it, restaurants get it, realtors get it, but some businesses don't yet. They will. Do I need a Facebook page? I still see tons of businesses with using personal profiles. Those are probably the most common.
You know what, Scott? I can't believe I skipped this question. I did get a question saying, should I use my personal profile for business?
You don't want your personal profile to be your business, but you do want to use a personal profile to share your Facebook page. Not all the time. I don't do it all the time, and I wouldn't recommend doing it all the time. But especially if it's something big, if you want to share with your personal friends or their friends, or you never know who knows who. The 6 degrees of separation. I don't think it's 6 degrees anymore on Facebook, but you never know who you're going to reach by sharing your Facebook page stuff to your personal profile. So every once in a while I do that. So you don't want your Facebook personal page to be your Facebook business, but you do want to share it through your Facebook personal profile.
I just got another question, and Scott said, does Facebook help? You guys can ask these questions. Please, star 6 to ask questions. But I love that you're emailing me as well, so thank you. But does Facebook help me get to the top of Google?
Oh, that's an awesome question. Yes. If you have, and that's another reason to create a Facebook page rather than a personal profile. The About section, if done properly on the Facebook page, will improve your Google search results. Google has said so, and so has Facebook. So your About section on your Facebook page should be similar to the About section on your website, maybe not verbatim, but pretty close to where you explain what you do and how you do it, keywords, but make sure, again, it makes sense to a human eye. One of the things that Google frowns upon now is just keyword stuffing. If it doesn't make sense to me when I read it, then they're not going to index it. But Google does index Facebook pages now.
Oh, good to know. All right, any other questions for Scott before I move on to my Instagram and Google questions? All right, Scott, how should I use Instagram for business?
So Instagram is one of those social media platforms where I say you may or may not want to be on there. So depending on the business, it is a huge platform for restaurants because if you have an Instagram account, you likely see pictures of people posting the meals they're eating at a restaurant. So it's huge for restaurants. It's pretty big for photographers. That's pretty obvious. Certain types of businesses where visual is important, it's big. I'm following a wedding planner that's pretty big. Obviously restaurants again. But the flip side of that is there's probably not a lot you could do with a locksmith on Instagram. So not so much those traditional service markets, the plumbers, and actually a plumber might do okay of showing some of their work. Marketers are on Instagram, obviously, so I post some stuff on Instagram. I'm working with a Groupon type site, shareadeal.com. I post stuff for them on Instagram because most of their deals are restaurants and so forth. So certain types of businesses would do well on Instagram, and if you're a restaurant, you definitely want to be on Instagram. But other types of businesses, more the traditional service type businesses or manufacturing, probably not as much. It's a younger audience on Instagram as well, so that's something to be aware of.
I got a great question that just came in. Thank you for asking this. Can I hurt my business by not being committed to posting regularly? Oh, I love that question.
Yes, that's the short answer. So what happens if I want to go to a particular type of business? I'm going to hire a plumber. And you have a Facebook page, and I go to that Facebook page, and I'm probably more critical than most, but if I go to that Facebook page and you haven't posted since 2012, and maybe you even have other people posting on your page because people can post to your page if you allow it, and you're not responding, I'm probably going to lean away from you unless there's a strong reason to do otherwise. Now, I think it's probably more damaging to have a Facebook page with no post, no recent posts than it is to not have one at all. It just looks like you started something you didn't finish. And if you start something like a Facebook page and don't finish, but my immediate thought is you're going to come to my house and you're going to start a plumbing job and not finish. So yeah, it definitely can hurt you. I've turned away from businesses because not so much Facebook, but if I go to your website and it says at the bottom of the website copyright 2010 hasn't been updated in 5 years, then that to me says you're not really serious about your business.
Interesting. Scott, you and I have had this conversation before about, responding to people or communicating with people in the method that they want to communicate. So, you'll get messages on Facebook or through text. Everyone's got through LinkedIn. And, I wonder how many people hurt their business by not being, by having that Facebook page and never checking the messages, so to speak.
That is also a good point. The wildlife guy I'm doing the work for now, he had a message from maybe last year that said to call him, and I don't think he ever replied to that. Another client that I had was telling me he's not getting any phone calls, anything for his business, and when he gave me the login information for his website, I saw that he did have some recent emails inquiring about his services. So you unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, you have to be able to communicate across whatever the client wants to communicate with you. I get a lot of messages on Facebook, both on my personal and my business page, and I'm not, as much as I am a social media marketer, I'm not a big fan of using Facebook Messenger. But unfortunately, for businesses, you have to be open to all of that. Twitter, direct messages, Google Plus messages, email, text messages. I get tons of text messages. And people will text any number now. It's funny because it could be a landline phone, they'll still try to text it. So you have to be available on any of those mediums. If you're on there, be prepared to answer questions or respond to inquiries.
That's awesome. This question's kind of funny. I almost want to go and type it in because I haven't looked at this for so long, but does Pinterest still exist, and should I use that for business? And I will tell you, this person owns a restaurant. I don't know if that helps you. Oh,
yeah. Pinterest definitely exists. Pinterest is one of the fastest growing social media platforms. And if your demographic that you want to target is women, you better be on Pinterest. I don't know the numbers. I know it's staggering. I think it's well over 80% women versus men on Pinterest. It's not a complicated site at all, and I could tell you they've added analytics now. They've added a few other things. You can post videos. from YouTube to Pinterest. But you definitely want to be there, especially if your demographic is women or you are in one of those visual industries, again, like a restaurant.
You know, I love this next question, Scott, and it's not really a question, but it was just to know, I think that somebody brilliant should connect all of these social media together so we can have only one thing that we have to check every day. That's awesome.
That's a good point.
But that's where Scott Gombar comes in. You guys?
That's a good point, and I probably shouldn't give away some secrets here, but it's not really a secret. There are tools out there. There's not one tool that will manage everything for you, but there are tools out there that will manage a good percentage of them. So if you're concerned about being able to watch one or two Twitter accounts, a Facebook page, a Google Plus page, you can do that using something like Hootsuite. And it's definitely a lot easier to do it that way. There are some limitations. If we didn't talk about Facebook Power Editor, that's probably a whole other Ask the Expert call. You can't do the things that you can do a Power Editor in Hootsuite. So if you want to, have a call to action button, it looks like almost like a sponsored ad on Facebook, but it's not a sponsored ad, it's a regular post. You can't do that through Hootsuite. You have to use Facebook Power Editor, and it's a standalone tool through Facebook. And if you want to use that, you have to do it through Facebook. But if you're just concerned about monitoring, you can do that through Hootsuite, no problem. And there's other tools too. Hootsuite's just my choice.
Hey, here's some Scott fan mail. My email is blowing up right now. I love this, Scott. This is so funny. And you guys interrupt at any time, *6 to just talk out loud. I know we're filling this time up, but *6 and definitely be part of the conversation. Scott, I listened to your Ask the Expert call a couple months ago. I want to share that I've got 3 new customers because of your advice. Awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Very cool. Google Plus, are you a fan? And what is the best thing to engage my social circles? It says. I'm sure that you know what that means better than me.
Yes, I am a fan of Google Plus, mostly out of necessity, because Google Plus will help your Google rankings. Now, they're changing some things. So where I've been talking about authorship for years, authorship has gone away. But if you have a Google Plus page for your business, which ties into Google Local and Google Maps and everything else Google, and I suspect in the very near future, and I'm not the only one, that Google will also now rank Google Plus posts on their search engine. It can be huge for your business as far as traffic to your website is concerned. So I am a fan. I do use it on a regular basis. I create for every single business. So I told you there's social media platforms where I might not use it for a certain business. So Instagram, I'm not going to use for every business. Pinterest, I'm not going to use for every business. Google Plus is not one of those. Google Plus, I use for every single business I work with. So if they don't already have a page, I create the page for them. It's going to be, and plus their analytics are incredible on the back end. You can see so much information about what's coming to your Google Plus page, and then using Google Analytics, you can see so much more information. Just like Facebook pages, you need to have the cover photo, the profile photo, make sure everything's appropriate, make sure your about section's filled out completely with the keywords, your hours of operation, all the different contact methods, add your Facebook page, your Twitter page, your Pinterest page if you have it, your LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is another one I tell every small business owner, you need to be on LinkedIn. So definitely Google Plus is important. A lot of people shy away from Google Plus. I'm not sure the reason. It is one of the top social media platforms, but they do shy away from it. And I think maybe because there's a lot of confusion as to what do I do? Do I use the personal profile for this? Do I use the page, the business page for this? Or how do I set it up? Or I have multiple locations. It can be difficult to set up, but you definitely do not want to ignore it.
I'm going to rein you in a little on this question because I think, at least my perspective, is they're asking about what to post to engage their audience on that site. So is there something that you would post on Google Plus that really would resonate with that audience a little better than other audiences maybe?
The plus one, Google probably won't admit this. It's kind of like a like on Facebook. Does seem to impact your search results. So I usually post similar type content. I don't post the exact same thing all the time. So I might post something on Facebook page and post something different on my Google Plus. But you want to post similar type content. What does your business do? How can you help other people? The same behavior. Do you like other people's posts? Plus one is actually what it's called. Plus one. Share them. Comment on them. The circles. You can create specific. One of the nice features about Google Plus is you can create circles, your own circles. So if I add Colleen to a circle that says Connecticut business, she doesn't know I added her to that circle. She just knows I added her. Now, when I'm prepared to send out content, I can target Connecticut businesses only. I can target another group only. I can target everybody. I can target an individual on Google Plus. You can't break it down like that on a Facebook page without using ads. So that's a nice feature. And I actually did set it up that way. I do it, not saying Colleen's a Connecticut business, and technically you are, but I add certain businesses, Connecticut business. A lot of businesses are on there. Connecticut people, marketing experts. You can target very specific for your posts. So if there's certain group you're trying to reach, you can definitely do that on Google Plus. Now you have to actually have them following you first, but.
So how do you? Okay, let me just ask this because how do you gain followers on Google Plus? Is it different? You can't advertise on Google Plus, right?
No, you can't, and it's similar to the way you would do organically on Facebook. You have to have the Google Plus on your website. You include it in your email signature. You follow people on Google Plus, and they follow back. And then there is something called circles. So you can, if you can find a relevant circle, you can get added to that circle, and that will usually get followed back. The problem with the circles is, at least for me, is if I'm a Connecticut business, I'm only looking for Connecticut business, there are no circles for that. Unless somebody creates one and shares it, at this point there isn't one. It requires a lot of energy to create the circle that specific, so I don't know that somebody will do that. So some generic ways. There's no advertising that will get people to Google Plus page.
I only have one more question, unless something else pops up. But any other questions from the members? Okay, you kind of segued into this question. How much time do you spend managing one business account with all of their different sites?
If I'm doing everything, you're probably talking about somewhere between 10 and 20 hours a week. It also depends on whether or not I'm, helping build the following. So if the following is not already there, that takes some time too. So that it'll take a little longer, a little more of my time. The website probably, the first week or two is probably spent fixing problems on the website. There's scheduling the posts. I'm not in front of the computer all day posting. I do schedule the posts out as much as I can, not too far in advance, but I do schedule them ahead of time. Probably somewhere between 10 and 20 hours a week, if it's a full-on manage everything for me client.
Wow, that's huge. Scott, honestly, I thought you were going to say maybe 2 or 3. I have no idea. But I think that's the difference between good and great, right? I mean, that's there it is. Is it going to drive business for you, or isn't it? That's awesome. That's great information.
Right. See, a lot of it is research, though. You have to know what are they looking for. What do you want? What are you selling? Who do you want to target? And so that means I have to find those people. So, I'm not gonna put anybody out there, but I've been approached by. I'm working with a client right now, a photographer, who tells me, he tried Twitter once a few years back, and it was another social media person in my area who got him, I think he said 1,500 followers, but they weren't quality followers, and that's the problem. It's not somebody who's going to buy from him, and that's, there were just 1,500 people from anywhere. So he was a little bit turned off. I may have mentioned that last time we talked. He was a little bit turned off by that. So I'm working with him now, and he's seeing that I'm bringing you followers. He's looking. He's telling me, well, you got somebody in Hartford. I don't want anybody in Hartford. I was like, well, they might know somebody in New Haven. So, but I'm getting him followers that are pre-qualified, I guess you could say, almost pre-qualified. They're from Connecticut, and who doesn't need a photographer in Connecticut? So.
Right. Awesome.
And that takes a lot of time.
Any other questions for Scott? Scott, is there something that you would want to make sure that everybody knows before you hang up?
I think the biggest thing that I run across on social media is you have to keep up with it. So I'm sure everybody on here, if you have Facebook or Twitter or Google Plus or anything else, it changes probably almost daily. So you have to keep up with the changes. If you go to your Facebook page today and then don't come back until December, it's likely going to look a lot different, and you're probably going to be like, where's Scott's phone number and website? Because you're going to be lost. So you have to keep up with it. Just knowing what's changed is big.
So another great segue. Can you give us your phone number and contact information, Scott? So if they have any other questions, they can reach out to you, or if they're interested in working with you, they know how to get a hold of you.
Sure. My phone number, my office phone is 203-806-0736. My cell is 203-435-7521. The website, again, is scottgombar.com. You can email me, scott@scottgombar.com. That's Gombar. Most of my social media is Scott Gombar, except for Twitter. Except for Facebook, it's Scott Gombar LLC is the Facebook page. Everything else is Scott Gombar. For some reason, there's already a Scott Gombar page out there. I don't know why. I think that's everything, right? You can text me on my cell. I don't mind. I have unlimited text. Smoke signals work.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, and thank you, Scott, for a great call. There was so much information. I cannot believe the sheer number of questions that you got and how rapidly they were coming in my email for a little while there. So you definitely have a hot topic, and I wouldn't be surprised if you have a lot of phone calls. But thank you so much for being on the call and sharing your expertise. I definitely learned a lot. I definitely value what you do for us and what you do for the businesses in Connecticut. Just kind of sitting back and watching you and knowing you the way that I do. I mean, you're just so impressive, Scott. So thank you for being on the call, and thanks for sharing with us. All right,
thank you for having me. I do like it, so I do like doing it.
Members, just a reminder, October 21st at CPSU, that's starting to fill up really fast. So make sure that you sign up if you're interested. That's an all-day event. It's really a great price. Obviously, members are half price. We always try to do something incredibly special for our members. But there's a ton of networking to be had. The speakers and the people that are going to be there that day teaching and training are unbelievable. So if you haven't taken a look at it, you can go to our website, smallbusinessus.com or smallbusinessuncensored.com. Either one of those websites will get you to the calendar of events, and you'll get to see the breakdown of who's going to be there. You can sign up through there. But hopefully I'll see you all October 21st. And I'm really looking forward to watching what happens on Twitter and Facebook pages this week after Scott's call. So thank you so much, Scott. Have a great week, everyone. Here's to your success. Take care.
Thank you.